Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel, and today I'm going to show you guys how to make this Prada shoulder bag. So the material I settled for, according to my polls, was African fabric because that had a higher percentage when I did the voting. So first I'm going to show you guys how I made the template. So you have your stationery, eraser, sharpener. I've got A4 sheets, and for cutting out my patterns I'm using cardboard paper. So I also have my rulers. I just bring as many as I can out. I don't limit myself. So first I'm going to do like a rough sketch for the bag. This way you can just write out your measurements before you start transferring this to your pattern cuttings. So for the side is going to be 18 centimeter, for the bottom 22, and for the base the depth is going to be 6 and the top part is going to be 4 centimeters. So for the handle I'm just going to settle for 50 centimeters. That's not too long, not too short. So as you can see, this is going to be what it will look like. It's just a rough sketch, not So 3 pieces are going to be the handle, the main body, then the gusset for the side. So just to give an idea on how we're going to do the sides, both sides are actually one piece where you cut the opening for the zip in the middle. So instead of cutting straight, you sort of give this U-shaped cutting, and that gives it the rounded concave top. So this is what it's going to look like. This is a very rough sketch. We're not married to anything here, but this way we can write out all the measurements, then we'll know how big and how wide our cutting is going to be. So it's going to be the sides and the bottom. So what you do is first of all you write out the 20 centimeter, then the 18 centimeter for the side. You do it for both sides, so you're going to have the same thing twice, and right at the middle of that you're going to write the 4 centimeter. So you're going to add all of this together to get the length of the pattern you're going to cut. So I'm just going to add 1 centimeter for allowance in between. So it's just basic addition. So looking up close, it's basic 1 centimeter plus 18 centimeter for the side, plus 4 centimeter for the top, 18, then another 1. Then that should be the overall length, which is 42 centimeter by 22 centimeter. I actually kind of made a mistake. I was supposed to add allowance for that side, but thank God it wasn't fatal, so it didn't lose the shape. It still came out well. So for the gussets, which are the sides, is also going to be one piece too. So I'm just drawing this shape out. It's not going to be straight. It's going to be tapered at both ends because it's going to be 6 centimeters at the base. So I'm just going to do the same thing. We're just going to add up all the sides that are concerned. So we start with our 1 centimeter allowance. Zoom up close. So in this case, it will now be the side, the bottom, and the other side. And this side, okay, let me just write it out, 18 centimeter too. So 18, 22, and 18, and that is all you need. So we have a 1 centimeter allowance, we have 18, plus the bottom of the bag, which is 22 centimeter. And just mark this out because this area is going to be a little wider than the two ends. Then plus the side, then plus our 1 centimeter for allowance, which is going to give us 60 centimeter. That'll be the entire length of this pattern. So for the wideness of the piece, it's going to be 4 centimeter on both sides, but the middle, which is going to be the base of the bag, is going to be a little wider, so it's going to be 6 centimeter. So the third piece is going to be the handle. I don't think there's any reason to draw that out, so I'm just going to do it 50 by 2 centimeter. So now let's cut out our pieces. So for the main piece, I'm just going to cut out the 42 by 22 centimeter. Before we start doing anything, you want to just get the rectangle shape out first before you start making any further modifications. Oh, this video is really long. I'm just going to cut that out. So to get the rounded edges, I'm just going to fold it into 2. Normally I would use like any round object, but I didn't find any one, so I kind of went full math on it. So I measured 3 centimeters on my compass. So you put it in the angle, you mark A and you mark B. So you put it in the first point and you just sort of draw an arc, draw another arc. Where the points intersect, you just join your A and your B points. So that way you have like a really small but perfect curve. So I'll just do it 2 times and just let you watch it again. Just pay attention. Three centimeters. First point, you mark it. And the second point, you mark it. So it forms an X. And you just join the 2 points. So I'm just going to follow my line and just cut it carefully, as close as perfect as I can be. I'm going to do the same thing for the second side. Okay, so now we have 4 identical points. So I actually decided to curve this thing down a bit further than I planned to, because I realized that it has to be really curved for the beauty of it to come out. So the original 4 centimeters didn't cut it. So this point you can just, I moved it down to 6, but eventually I even still moved it further down because I wasn't satisfied at all. But at this point, you can make it as curved as you want. This is open to your personal preference. For me, this didn't cut it, so off camera, I curved it down a bit to make it really slope well. So for the side piece, I'm just going to mark out a long strip, which is 6 by 60, right? Yeah, by 60 centimeters. I'm just going to cut it out before I taper every other thing. Sorry, before I taper both ends. So I mark from one end, I mark it up to 19 centimeter, and I do the same thing for both sides because you want them to be uniform. So I'm just going to fold it so it's going to be easy to find where this ends. So to taper it, I'm going to take out 1 centimeter from either side, which is going to make it 4 centimeter like we intended to do. I'm going to mark it into 4. Then join the first point with the end of that side So it's the point I folded it up to where I marked it to be tapered in. That is where I'm just going to rule out, and this is where I'm going to curve, use my my knife and just cut it out. Just slice it off. So now you have the side piece for the pattern. So this is tradition for me. I always want to make sure that I got it down to at least the last centimeter. So what I do is I just join this in, sort of make like a cardboard paper bag. So even when you're already doing this, you're already going to have an idea of what your finished bag is going to look like. So at this point, you're sure how it's going to come out and how it's going to turn out. So it's basically going from 2D to 3D. So now we know what our bag should look like, if this is what it looks like in paper. So now it's time to build the bag itself. So this is our cardboard paper bag. We're going to take it down and trace everything. But first, these are the accessories I'm going to be using. A pair of hooks, a pair of D-rings, and one zipper. Then the zip itself. One zipper pull. And for the material, I'm using Ankara fabric, blue with black and white background stripe. And I'm just going to use plain black for the lining. And to give the bag that really defined shape, I'm using heavy duty interface. They're really thick. I think this is the same thing they use for like corsets and breast tubes. And I want to use this because the Ankara fabric is kind of flimsy, it's kind of really soft. So we want to use something that's going to sort of be very defined when we're done making our bags. So the method I'm using here is I'm going to just trace the pattern on the interface. And I'm going to use hot iron to iron the fabric onto the interface, then cut it out. Instead of cutting the Ankara fabric and cutting the interface, I'm going to cut the interface first, and I'm going to just iron the interface onto the Ankara fabric because I feel it's much easier this way, and it's better when you have like allowance around it, so you don't have to worry about the fabric being too small. So we're just going to do the same thing for the side, and always check the interface you're using because it has like iron-on glue on one side, so you need to make sure you're ironing the fabric on that side. That side usually looks a little shiny, so you're going to notice what part actually has the glue on it. So I'm just going to go and trim out the excess fabric. So we're going to have very clean and defined pieces. I'm just going to do the same thing for the side. Okay, I'm just going to give it a little curve. I was supposed to do this earlier, but this isn't important. It's just optional. So I'm going to cut out the excess fabric on the heavy duty interface too, just to give it a trim, and you have very neat cuts. So for the middle, I am just marking out a little allowance because I want to iron it in instead of just leaving the ends open. I want to sort of like turn it in. So I'm just going to cut a hole in the middle, but we're not cutting it at the exact end. So then I'm going to take my scissors and just give it a little a few notches. This is so you can fold it in. So I'm just going to turn it over and iron it flat. So So now our pieces are coming together. So I'm going to make an inner pocket. It's about 10 by 15 centimeter. So I'm going to use the same technique here, where I cut the interface to be the exact shape, and I sort of just wrap it with the Ankara fabric here. So the same thing, I'm just going to take the interface and iron it on this. So I want both sides to be Ankara fabric, so I'm just going to fold it in. I'm just going to iron it flat. So you should be really careful with this, because I almost burnt my hand at this point because I didn't want the interface to move around. So I'm just going to carefully iron it flat. Just apply the heat, not too hot so you don't burn your fabric. Then I'm going to fold the ends in. So it's going to make it super easy for me to sew on the lining. So just be careful. Please be careful with the hot iron. To apply some steam. So I was supposed to do this before. I don't know why I forgot to do this step, which is basically cutting out the lining. So since I already had my outer fabric ironed to the interface, I'm just going to trace that on the lining. And I'm going to cut exactly on the lines because I want the size to be identical. So what you really need is just one pattern that you're going to trace 3 times, but I just sort of made some steps to sort of make it easier for me. So I'm going to do the same thing for the gusset, which is the side piece. I'm going to draw it on the lining and I am going to cut it out. Okay, so now I'm going to just I'm going to sew the inner pocket to the lining. I'm going to do off camera just to save some time because the video is already getting too long. But just you want to balance that in the middle. So I'm just going to pin this on before I take it to the sewing machine to sew. So while I have done that, I'm going to just clip the zip to the outer piece. I'm going to first pin it in the middle, then sort of just go around our oval shape and just pin it all the way around because we want this to stay put while we start sewing. It's supposed to be easy, but it turned out being tricky. So I'm just going to take 4 pins and just pin the 4 corners to make sure that as I'm sewing the zip onto the lining, it doesn't move around. So you can use your regular sewing machine for this, but I guess I'm just used to the speed of industrial sewing machines, so domestics are now feeling really slow. I don't know if anybody can relate to that. If you can relate, please comment down below. So I'm just going to go around carefully, sew the zip down all the way around, and I'm sewing it to the lining. I know it's not really ethical, but trust me, this is way easier than any other option that I would have explored. So I'm just going to trim out the lining, and you have to do this really neatly so you don't have like fuzzy cuts. If you have like hairs and stuff sticking out of the edge, you can use a lighter to sort of burn it down. I'm just going to trim out the excess zip sticking out from the side. I'm going to do it for both sides. Then this is going to be the final closing of the bag, where I just sort of took out a piece of fabric and I put it on the D-ring, and I just sort of clipped it in. Again, this one is my own modification. I wanted a situation whereby I will be able to switch out the straps. I could change it from the Ankara strap. I could put anything else I want. I could use a chain. I could use anything. So I wanted to be free to do whatever I wanted. That is why I did not think it was very important to sew in the strap like the original design. So if you're like me, you can use this method. If you're not, you can just sort of pin down the strap while you're pinning the whole bag in. So just the same way we pinned our cardboard purse. So we're just going to go around and sort of clip the whole bag. So while you're sewing, nothing gets to shift, nothing moves around, and you don't start loosening and starting again because the whole thing didn't turn out well. So this way, it's just one continuous stitch all the way around. So we're just going to sew that down. You also have to be careful, because if you don't do this properly, you may have like points where the fabric could be sticking out or it wasn't properly closed. So you could take your time as long as you want on this particular stage. It may be slow, but trust me, it saves a lot of time instead of making mistakes and coming back to correct it. So this is the first stitching. If you have an overlock machine, you could just sort of use that to finish your edges, or you could use bias method, or any way you like to finish your edges. You are free to do anyhow you want, but usually what I am used to, I use this heavy duty bias binding, and I already have the folder, so I just sort of feed it in, and I'm just going to go around and sort of do that because you want it to be neat. It doesn't matter if anybody is not going to see it. Your conscience should tell you that you should finish your bag properly. So at this point, you could use regular bias, or you could just be like me. If you already have this type of binder, you could just use this method too. It also works. Whatever works for you is what you should do. You don't have to always stick to my own method. This is what worked for me because I already had this in hand. But you can use your own personal method. So now I'm just going to wrestle the bag to turn it inside out, because turns out this interface is actually pretty strong. So you have to first push your edges in before you pull the bag out. It sort of reduces the tension on it. So I'm just going to push it out. I think I'm going to iron this thing again, maybe to give it straighter edges, but for now, thank you for watching my tutorial. I hope you like it. I hope you're able to learn a thing or two. Could give this video a thumbs up. Comment down below what you think, or if you have any other suggestions for tutorials you want to see in the future, or anything you want me to talk about in my channel, you could also reach out to me. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'm going to see you guys in my next posts.